Namaskara to all of you. Welcome to our next session on the Yogic Life. So last class we talked, the last few classes we talked a lot about Satvik Ahar. So we talked about increasing the amount of raw fruits and vegetables in your diet, excluding, eliminating completely the company products, going to restaurants, and also eliminating SOS, salt, oil, sugar. That is the yogic way of life, right? So if you say that you have to follow this whole food plant-based diet, then people say, oh, this is very, very extreme. Why we were following such an extreme kind of diet where no salt, no sugar, no oil, no ghee, nothing? So why should we follow this kind of extreme diet? So why do we need to do that, right? So we should have a balanced life. We should have all the taste. Why should we have this kind of extreme lifestyle? Everything should be in balance, right? So so that is what generally we hear, right? So the answer to that question is that, right, when a student gets 100% in a test, right, then nobody goes and tells to that student that this is very extreme. Why are you getting 100%? It's okay to get balanced. Let's get 50%, right? That itself is good. Why is it such an extreme 100%? We should have a balance in life, right? So we don't say that. That's not right. So we always appreciate that somebody is getting 100%. If a student excels in a test, then we always appreciate. So similarly, taking food is also like that. There are like two types of scales: scale of balance and scale of excellence. So we should not get confused between these two, right? Talking about food is a scale of excellence, right? It falls in the scale of excellence. So just like a person who's trying to quit smoking, if he says, I used to take 2 packs of cigarette and now I have reduced it to 1 pack of cigarette. So now it is balanced. I'm not taking extreme. I'm just taking a little bit. So do we say that it's okay to take 1 pack of cigarette? So the same way, when you're talking about food, we're talking about a scale of excellence and not a scale of balance. So that is why we have to apply it 100%, because if you want to see the results, then we have to follow it strictly. Then only you can see the results. So we all have come to this yogic session and we have this curiosity. What is this yogic life and how were the yogis of the past living? What were they doing? Right? In order for you to experience that and feel what it is, you need to implement it 100%. If you're just implementing it a little bit here and there, you're not going to see any major change. And then, you can't say that this yogic life is not working. So you have to apply it fully and for some time and then see how it is having an impact, and then only know whether this is working or not. So we should not compromise in that. We should always try to achieve 100%. So we have to be very, very careful about food, because it has profound spiritual implication, right? That is why food is very, very important. So after having talked about food, the next thing that we want to talk about is the next thing that a yogi does is the Nirjala Upavasa. So Nirjala means without water. Upavasa. What is Upavasa? What do you mean by Upavasa? Is it properly understood in society today? What is Upavasa? People say I'm fasting. So is that what Upavasa is? So Upavasa, Upa means near and Vasa means residing. So Upavasa, residing near, right? Living near. That is what is Upavasa, living near. So the question is, automatically the question is, living near what? That is a natural question. Upavasa means living near that very supreme consciousness. That is what is Upavasa. Living even nearer than usual. I mean, every day we are living near to that supreme consciousness, but on the day of Upavasa, you're living even closer. So the point is, so when we take food, right, when we take food on any ordinary day, when we take food, so no matter what food we are eating, whether it is sattvic diet or whatever food, so it amounts to an interaction with the outside world, right? So we are putting something into our mouth. When we are putting something into our mouth, our taste buds get little excited by that food, no matter what food it is. So even if you've been eating sattvic diet for a long time, you start enjoying that food and your taste buds get excited by that food, right? So no matter what kind of food, it will divert the mind. towards that food. It'll get the mind attracted towards that food, right? So the mind is actually one. The mind is one. So in the sense that you can only think about one thing at a time, right? You cannot think multiple things at a time. So like people actually talk about multitasking, right? People talk about multitasking. They say I'm multitasking, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm that, right? But actually speaking, there is no multitasking. There is no such thing as multitasking. Multitasking means doing multiple things at once, right? Doing it at once. But we cannot do multiple things at once, right? The mind can quickly change subjects. It can switch subjects quickly from one to another. So that is what people call as multitasking. But at a point in time, mind can only think about one thing. It cannot think more than one thing at a time, right? So we will be talking about mind a lot going forward. What is the structure of the mind, how it works? We'll be talking about all of that going forward. Mind can only think about one thing at a time. So if right, so for instance, if you take an example, uh, if a child is playing, right, and if it is very deeply involved in the playing and very engrossed with a toy, and if the mother comes and mother calls the child, right, then the child doesn't hear because he's so deeply engrossed, he's deeply involved in what he's doing, he's playing, right? He's deeply involved in his playing, so he doesn't hear the mother. So the mother actually says, are you listening to me? I'm actually calling you, please come here. And then the child is not hearing, the child is not intentionally ignoring his mother, right? But he's so engrossed, involved in something that he doesn't hear. So we have like several doorways to the external world: the eyes, ears, nose, the mouth, the faculty of touch, right? So when the mind is engaged in hearing something, uh, right, if it is deeply focused on what it is hearing, then the visual information, the eyes are open but the mind is not seeing those things. When the mind is focused on hearing, then the eyes are open. Even when the eyes are open, the eyes are not seeing anything because the mind is currently involved in hearing. And the same thing, if the mind is seeing something, it is focused in seeing something, then even if somebody is speaking, then you're not going to hear the noise, you're not going to hear the voice, right? The ears are working fine, the ears are all fine, but the mind is not hearing. So the mind actually can do only one thing at a time. So when somebody takes food and when somebody tastes something, then it is natural, the mind for a moment it is diverted by the flavor of whatever somebody is eating, right? The mind is attracted by that flavor. It's very natural, right? So we eat like 3 times a day, and then the mind gets diverted by the food 3 times a day, right? So it is very, very natural. The main point is that it is natural and it is accepted that that the mind gets attracted by the food, right? And there is no choice, we have to take food, we have to live in this world, we have to take food. But there are ways to deal with that, right? We'll talk about how to deal with that. We'll talk about brahmacharyam, we'll talk about all that going forward. But with regard to the upavasa, what I want to say is that upavasa represents a very special opportunity to be living in the world, but even more to a higher degree of excellence, living in the world but having the mind strictly involved with the Parama Purusha that day. You're strictly thinking about Parama Purusha, and you're living in the world but your mind is fully focused on Parama Purusha that day. So Upavasa is a day for not taking food. So we don't call it as fasting. So that is not the purpose. The purpose is not fasting. The purpose is not, the purpose is anashanam. So when you're not taking food, we call it as fasting. But we're not going to call it as fasting. We're going to call it as upavasa. So it is in the sense we are not taking food, but also there is another thing is that we are living close. We are living closer to the Parama Purusha. That is the speciality of upavasa. Because upavasa is a day for living even closer to Parama Purusha, so even closer to that supreme consciousness than we do on other days, and that is the reason why the yogis practice upavasa. So we'll talk about that little bit forward. So far, any questions? Okay, so over here, so to live in the world but have the mind involved with Parama Purusha that day. So Nirjala Upavasa is a day for not taking food and water for 36 hours, right? Upavasa is not a day of, it's not a day of custom, it is not a day of torture, right? The body, the whole body, the digestive system, the everything gets complete rest from the food for one day, and the mind gets the benefit of increased vairagya, right? So that is why the yogis practice Upavasa. So the body also gets complete rest, and also the mind gets the benefit of vairagya. So the mind now gets detached from the food. The mind which is so involved in food every day when it is eating 3 times a day, so the day of the Upavasa, the mind is detached from the food. The mind is not thinking about the food, and so you get the benefit of increased vairagyam. So that is why the Nirjala Upavasa is practiced. So uh, so the as sadhakas, our goal as yogis uh, is to have a mental approach to the world, or what we actually call as vairagya. So the whole purpose of doing upavasa is so that we get vairagya, right? Vairagya. So what does vairagya mean, right? Vairagya means viragasya bhavaha. Viragasya bhavaha vairagyam. Viragaha. So what is ragaha? Ragaha does not mean krodha. Does not mean krodha. Raga means color. Color. Raga means color. So the mind being colored by the things with which it interacts in the world. The mind being colored by the things of the world, right? That is what is raga. Viraga means not being colored by the things of the world, is called as viraga, right? And that kind of bhava is vairagya. So viragasya bhavaha vairagya. The mind is not being colored by the things of the world. It is living in the world, but it is not getting colored by the world. You're being detached from the objects of the world. So that is a special opportunity which we call as upavasa, right? So over here, so what is the goal of full upavasa is to get vairagyam, is to get vairagyam. So the as we'll be learning about a lot about this vairagyam, viveka and all that, but so as I was saying, vairagya is the bhava of viragasya bhavaha. So raga generally people think as krodha. It is not krodha. Raga means color. So viraga means not being colored by the objects of the world. That is called as vairagya. And when should this upavasa be done, right? So the upavasa should be done on ekadasi. Actually the yogis do the upavasa 4 times a month, right? So they do on ekadasi, amavasya, and the 2 times ekadasi, amavasya and paurnami. So it becomes 4 times. So for you guys, initially you can do 2 times. You can start with 2 times. On both ekadashi you can do the upavasa. So that is the 11th day after the full moon or the new moon. So ekadashi is a very, very special time, right? Very special time. Why the ekadashi is being chosen as a day for upavasa is because it is a very special time when the tides in the ocean, they rise, right? So what happens is that when the moon is closer, the attraction between the moon and the earth is increased. So because of that, the tides all they increase, they go higher, right? So what happens is the tides going higher is not only for the water in the ocean, but is also for the water in our body as well, right? So when the water in the body increases on ekadashi, when the water in the body increases, then it creates more pressure on the brain, right? That is why on those days, right, you can see that people who are mentally imbalanced, they need more help. They just become more imbalanced, particularly on those days, right? Because the because Ekadashi is a special time when the tides in the ocean rise, right? So the water in the body also increase. As a result, it has an impact on the brain, and if people are mentally imbalanced, then it has more impact on those people during those during those days, right? So so far, any questions? So so what happens is when we uh, generally when we eat or when we do anything in our day-to-day life, our mind is getting occupied for that, right? So when we take food, whatever type of the food when we take, then for that moment the mind is concentrated or focused on that food, and when the and that food actually enters the mouth. So right, so Upavasa is a day where you take complete break from food and water, right? And that is the day we live even closer to Paramatma than the usual day. That is why we do Upavasa. It is not like fasting, but it is a way to stay. It is a way to stay even closer to the supreme consciousness, right? Uh, so a yogi who is a practicing yogi should be mindful about vairagyam. A practicing yogi should have this viragasya bhava, right? And we said raga does not mean anger, it means color, right? So that is what we talked about. It's very beautiful that on the so this Upavasa is very beautiful. This Upavasa is very closely related with vairagya. So when you successfully do the Upavasa, you're building your vairagya, viragasya bhavaha. So we should always be seeking this vairagya. We should always be seeking to have this approach to the world, right? That we do all the things in the world, but we do not get colored by the world. So mind is always related with that supreme entity, that Parama Purusha. And that day that we don't take food, right? That is the day of Upavasa. That is a very special opportunity for this. And the thing is, one should not see this as a day of kashta. This is not a day of kashta, right? The first time when you do, you might feel, you might, just hearing this concept, you might feel, oh my god, it's impossible to be without food and water, right? I mean, who can be without food and water even for a day, right? Then initially then when you do the first time, what appeared to be impossible will seem more possible, right? When you finish it for the first time, the kind of joy you get after you do the 36-hour upavasa, and there is a special way of breaking the fast which we'll be talking about today, right? So when you break the fast, right, and you actually clean your stomach completely, you clean your gut completely, and that day after you do that, you feel like as if you are reborn, right? The cells of your body are all seem very fresh, and you have such a kind of fresh feeling that it's difficult to express in words. You have to go through it, then only you know what I'm talking about. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't want any of you to think that this is impossible, right? It is quite possible. So although, like, when we generally, we have the habit of doing fasting, at least in India people do fasting, but the thing is that when they do fasting, people are always eating something, right? They're saying, I'm eating fruits, or I'm eating I'm eating a light meal, or I'm just eating some people eat sabudana, or some people eat something else, right? But they're always eating something, they're always drinking something, right? So when we are talking about upavasa, it is actually not eating anything. That is what is upavasa. Not eating anything, not drinking water, nothing, not taking anything. That is what is upavasa, and not the commonly understood meaning of fasting. Is fasting means any kind of fasting. Even for ekadashi fasting, that people generally what they do is they take something. They say I take fruits one time, or I take fruits 2 times, something like that. People generally say that, right? Or I take steamed food that day, whatever that may be. But here we're talking about not taking anything, right? So if somebody is taking somebody takes food, then the body has to digest that food. So it is just a sequence of processes that are going on, which needs the dedication of both the body and the mind, right? To some extent the mind, right? So whatever we are doing, even eating, right, the body is involved in digesting the food, and there is a sequence of steps for the digestion to happen. So Upavasa is a day when you're giving rest to the whole body, and also the mind is focused on Paramapurusha. So the Upavasa should be done on Ekadashi. That is the 11th day after the full moon or the new moon. So that Ekadashi is a special time. So I was saying that is a time when the tides are particularly rising all around the world, and that part which is related with the moon at that time, then the tides of the ocean are related with the moon. So when the moon is closer, then the mutual attraction between the moon and earth is increased, right? Because of that, the water tides go higher, so that the rising of the water is not only for the oceans but also for the water in our body, right? When the water goes higher, then it creates more pressure on the brain, right? So Mohoday is actually Swarup Mohoday is actually a physician, right? Emergency physician, and he is always told that during this Ekadashi time, he has seen a lot of patients who are particularly, like, are having mental problems, like who are mentally imbalanced, right? He can see more of those patients coming to the emergency room, right? So it is very clearly we can see that the on Ekadashi the water in the body increases and has a pressure on the brain. So when you give rest to the body, the complete rest to the body, then it has a great impact on the mind and also the body, right? On the emergency room is one place where people who are mentally imbalanced, they come particularly during this Ekadashi time, right? So you can see more number of patients coming during that time. They generally come in greater numbers at that time because they get affected by that, right? So not only everybody gets affected by this, right? So if we are going to do Upavasa, we should do it at that time. That is the best time for doing Upavasa. So when we say Upavasa, we're talking about Nirjala Upavasa, right? In India, a lot of people think about fasting means they're just going to take fruits or they're going to take something, but we're not talking about that kind of fasting, right? We're not taking we're not going to be taking any fruits, we're not going to be taking anything, we're not going to be taking food or water for 36 hours, right? So if Wednesday is the Upavasa, let's say Wednesday is the Upavasa, that means on Tuesday evening, right, we will have our normal food, right? We'll have a light meal. It does not mean that we are going to be overloading ourselves with a lot of food on the Tuesday evening, right? So we'll have a normal meal on Tuesday. Then from Tuesday evening, after you have your food, until Thursday morning, we will not be taking anything, right? We'll not be taking water, or we'll not be taking food. So you can do this twice a month. This is a very special opportunity. It is not a time for suffering, right? So everybody generally feels like, oh my God, how can I do that? How can I do this fasting? But the thing is, actually the human being is actually designed to do this. This is not something we are artificially imposing, right? We are designed to do this. We need to give rest to our body, right? We are designed to do that, and animals also do that. Animals also do fasting for their health. They don't know anything about these things, right? But their lifestyle actually lends to that fasting, and actually they also do fasting, right? So human beings also should do fasting. It's very, very good for health, right? The body gets rest from digestion for that time, right? It is very good. The body does not need to eat, right? We are not recommending fasting for 5 days or 10 days or 15 days or nothing like that. We are saying just one day, 36 hours of fasting, right? So I have been now doing it for now many years now, and I am unable to engage in my day-to-day activity without any problem. So just the first time when I did the fasting, that night I was not able to sleep, but then after that my mind and my body just got used to it. I don't feel anything. I can just engage in my normal activities those days. There's no problem at all. I can just do whatever I have been doing, right? The only thing is that I don't do anything physically very strenuous on that day, right? So I can just do some things light. I don't want to put extra burden. The body is in a very delicate condition on that day when you're not giving food, so we don't want to put any extra pressure on the body by doing anything strenuous, right? So that day we don't do anything strenuous. So you can actually do the fasting, the upavasa on the day of Ekadashi, or one day before or the day after, right? So generally one day before or on the day of Ekadashi is actually very good, right? So and also another thing is that the mind is very sharp on that day, right? People may think that I'm not having food and I'm not having water and my mind will be very dull, right? But it's not like that. So once you mentally prepare and you tell yourself beforehand that you're not going to get food, then your mind is prepared. And on the day of doing the upavasa, right, that day, that the time that usually you have your lunch, that time you might feel little bit of like you're feeling hungry like that. But then once the time crosses, then you're completely fine. You're not feeling hungry, you're not feeling anything, it's just perfectly fine. You're just into your regular activities, right? So all of us should actually embrace this practice. We should try this, right? So first we talked about satvika ahara, and the second point is upavasa. So all these things in yogic life, actually this is actually the yogic life. All of these things have practical ramifications. So you will feel the change in your existence by doing this, right? So upavasa means not having any food or water for 36 hours, and the body gets complete rest from the food for that one day, and the mind gets the benefit of increased vairagya. So upavasa means living near the parama purusha. So the mind is more easily is the mind is in the world, but yet it is away from it, right? So the mind is linked to that parama purusha even more strongly that day, right? So than the other days. And it also brings a lot of happiness, right? It brings a lot of happiness, it brings a lot of, it's a matter of bliss, right? So that is one part of upavasa. So you get vairagya, you also get happiness, it's good for your health. So there are a lot of benefits from doing upavasa. So any questions so far? So Chandrasekhar Maurya, do you want to quickly summarize?
Yes, thank you, Bhaini. Yeah, quickly summarizing, uh, one of the after the yogic ahara, upavasa is another key element in yogic life. Upavasa means, living near. It's really living near that Parama and on the day of upavasa, it's a nirjala upavasa. You don't eat or drink anything for a period of 36 hours. The day of upavasa and the night before and the morning after makes that 36-hour stretch. Um, and on it's highly recommended that we do that on the Ekadasi day, and perhaps then extend it to also on Amavasya and Purnami to make it four days a month. But on the Ekadasi days, and I think that's true even about Amavasya and Purnami, there is a lot of attraction to the moon as it gets closer, and the tides rise, and the water in our body rises as well, and that adds pressure to the mind, to the brain, and so also people that are mentally um, imbalanced have problems that day because of that attraction, because of that rising of the fluid and affecting the brain. And upavasa really helps uh, our mind to get, it gets more sharp. It's and we get vairagya out of that, and the vairagya is really virahasya bhava, and that um, it, it really is not color. It helps us and not be colored by what we see around us, colored by all the different uh, things that our senses read into the mind, and it it helps us think, uh, and concentrate on the Parampursha, and it cleanses the body, and it cleanses the mind, and makes your mind sharp. And as tough as it might sound, it's really, is highly beneficial to follow Nirjala Upavasa twice a month at least to start with.
Yes, Monia, that is what it is. Yeah. So we talked about Nirjala Upavasa. Now we are going to talk about how to break that Upavasa. We are just calling it as breaking fast. How to break that fast. So that is what we'll be talking about right now. So there is actually a particular process for breaking that fast, right? To break that Upavasa. So like for the guidelines for yogis is that yogis, right, the cleanliness is very important for the yogis, right? Not only for the yogis, for all human beings, cleanliness is very important, right? So the guidelines for yogic life is that everybody must take bath every day, right? That is one of the guidelines. Like everybody should take bath every day, whether somebody has warm water or not, right? So one should take bath. That means in India, in winter time, if in some place, if you're not having access to warm water, then there are people who don't take bath during winter time because of cold. But that is not a good practice. So somebody has to take bath, even if it is cold. One has to take bath every day. So what you're trying to say over here is, just like we're taking a bath outside to clean the body outside, right? Because cleanliness is important, hygiene is important. So one should take bath every day. But in this connection, we have this digestive tract that starts from the mouth and goes all the way down. That digestive tract also needs to be cleaned. It also needs to be cleaned. So not only outside we should be clean, but the inside of the body also should be clean. So actually the entire pathway from the mouth down to the anus, so this is, you can think it as an outside the body, right? So the mouth down to the anus, you can think of it as outside the body, because it has an opening outside, uh, the mouth, for the mouth, and also the anus we have opening outside, right, at the bottom. So when we digest the food, right, we absorb the food from the digestive tract into the body, right? So you're not saying that pathway is outside the body. The pathway is actually inside the body, but there is a unique connection with the outside world as well for the pathway, right? So because the waste actually goes out the other end, right? You take something from the mouth, the waste goes other end. So it is in a way external to the body in that sense. And right, uh, so somebody has not got the nutrients that the body has eaten, right, until you absorb it from the digestive tract. So then you get the nutrients, otherwise not. So what happens is, if somebody has if the digestive system is not working properly, if somebody who has malabsorption syndrome, like there are various different kinds of symptoms for malabsorption. They've eaten a lot of food, but they could not digest it. Their body could not absorb that food into their bloodstream from the digestive tract, and they didn't get any nutrients. So this digestive tract, has this particular quality of being being connected more with the outside world than the other parts of the body. So the digestive tract also needs to be cleaned, right? You got food going into it every day, right? Every day the food is going into it. And unless somebody has done this cleaning process, right, what we are going to talk about, that means from birth till now, nobody has actually cleaned their gut, right? The gut has never been emptied, right? There has not been a single day from their birth up until today that the digestive tract has been completely empty, completely clean, right? Completely empty. Nobody has done this. If you have not followed this process, then you have not cleaned your gut. So when you have not cleaned your gut, that means there food residues are inside your body, sitting in your gut, right? Those are the ones that can cause different kinds of diseases. Even though we empty our bowels bowels in the morning, but even then you will be very surprised after you do the cleaning process. You will note that there are some residue in your body even after you have cleaned your gut on the day of the Upavasa. You cleaned you emptied your bowels on the day of Upavasa. You said Tuesday evening you have your normal meal. Wednesday is the day of Upavasa. On Wednesday morning you would have emptied your bowels. On Thursday morning, when you end your fast and when you clean your gut by following this process that I'm going to talk about, you will be very, very surprised to see that there is so much of still residue sitting in your body, in your gut, right? So this is a very, very special opportunity that that Wednesday is the day of Ekadashi. Tuesday evening we took one meal in the evening, and Wednesday morning in the morning, in the natural course, you emptied your bowels in the morning, like the way you do every day. And then Wednesday you did not take any food, any water, and then Thursday morning you're going to break the fast, right? Thursday morning you're going to break the fast. So what is the way for breaking this fast is that we take warm water. We take warm water with salt, right? So essentially we take salt water, we drink it, and it exerts what we call an osmotic pressure, right? Osmotic pressure gradient. So what happens is a pressure is created because of that salt, right? So then what happens, due to that pressure, the salt, because of this pressure, the salt is not absorbed in the body, but because of this pressure, the waste from your body gets out, right? An osmotic pressure gradient is created because of the salt, due to which there is pressure on the digestive tract, and the salt is not absorbed in the body. It keeps the water. So if you drink the salt water, especially in the morning after Upavasa, then it just goes through like a laxative, right? It just goes straight through rather than getting absorbed in the body, right? So you feel like you are having a diarrhea or something like that, but actually you are essentially cleaning your body. You're using the restroom for multiple times, right? So if somebody that morning, for example, drinks water without salt, then it will be absorbed into the body, right? Because you have fasted for one full day. So if you drink water without salt, then the water will get absorbed into the body. But because of the salt, right, it keeps the water in the digestive tract. So when one drinks the salt water, it just goes down from the mouth down to the anus and out the back, right? So it is not getting absorbed in the body because of the salt. That's what happens. And to everybody's surprise, right, you have emptied your bowels on Wednesday, and you haven't taken any food or water, but on Thursday morning, when you're because of this drinking the salt water, when you're emptying your bowels, then what happens is that you will be very, very surprised that you did not take any food, and even then there is so much of waste matter that is coming out from your body, right? So that shows you that even you had emptied your bowels on Wednesday and not had any food, and you thought that the digestive tract was empty, but it has never been emptied since birth. So when you do this process, then what we're going to talk about, then at the end of the prakriya, at the end of this whole process, what happens is what comes out from your body is just plain water which has no color, no smell, right? First few times when you use the restroom, it is just going to be waste matter. Then after that you keep drinking water, and then what comes out is a clean water which has nothing, which has no waste. That means you can be assured that your gut has been fully cleaned, right? There will be no smell, no color, nothing, right? So then when that happens, then you know that the digestive tract has been completely cleaned and you have completed your upavasa. Everything is done, right? This process itself is very beautiful process. It takes like 2 to 3 hours, right? First time when you're doing, definitely it will take you 2 to 3 hours, but then slowly when you get practice, then it doesn't take much time. It takes like maybe 2 hours or 1.5 hours when you get used to it, right? So that for everybody, this happens for everybody. When you do it for the first time, the kind of feeling you get, it is just quite remarkable, right? You just get this feeling of feeling very, very light, extremely light, and you just feel so clean, right? You just feel like a newborn baby. So that is how we generally feel, when you do it for the first time, the Nirjala Upavasa, you feel like you're just a newborn baby. You're just like a new leaf, right? That's what you feel. It's completely light. You feel so clean outside and inside. And after you do this process, there's no rush to eating at this point, right? Once somebody, after doing this process, if you once somebody starts getting hungry, then it may be taking like another 45 minutes to 1 hour. Then you can slowly start eating, right? And also there is some this one requirements in terms of what you can eat. You don't want to, because your body is in a very delicate condition, you don't want to load your body with lot of food, right? Like lot of uh, you know uh, cooked food, right? So you want to take something very, very light, right? So once the cleaning process is complete, and then when one gets hungry, then that time you have to take sattvic ahar. Especially you have to take raw fruits and vegetables. That is what is very good at that time. And also drink a lot of water. You have already taken a lot of water with salt, right? So now after you you did the cleaning process, and when you start feeling hungry, then you can take some raw fruits and vegetables, right? So initially, like in terms of how much of water you need and how much of salt you have to add, that you have to adjust according to your body. Generally speaking, 1.5 spoons of salt or 2 tablespoons of salt will be sufficient, right? The water should be warm water. So you should essentially take 1 liter of water, warm water, add 2 spoons of salt, and also half a lemon juice. You squeeze lemon juice into it for the first time, and then you keep sipping that water. The water should not be too salty, or it should not be if it is too salty, then you will feel nauseating, right? So the water should be it should be appropriate. It should be slightly salty, but not too salty, because if it is too salty, you yourself will realize that you're going to vomit, right? So it takes a little bit of practice to figure out what is the exact amount of salt you need, but generally speaking, for me, 2 tablespoons of salt works perfectly fine, right? So that is initially you'll have to figure that out, how much of salt I should take, right? You can add kala namak. You can add kala namak if you have that, black salt. If you don't have black salt, then you can use the regular salt, right? uh, so then especially in the beginning, if you're not used to it, and if you put too much salt, then you have to remember that it can be very nauseating. You feel nauseated, right? And people can actually throw up because there's too much of salt. So one has to be a little bit careful, right? You have to taste it and see that is it too salty. It should be slightly salty. If there is no salt, then you will not get that pressure for you to empty or clean the gut. Then the entire water will just come out as urine, right? So it should have appropriate amount of salt. It should not be too salty, or it should not be very little of salt, right? If it is too little salt, then it will not work. It will not give you the required result. So that is the thing that you'll have to adjust depending on what kind of salt you have. So generally speaking, you need like 3 to 4 liters of water, right? The first 1 liter of water, you add 2 spoons of salt or 1.5 spoons of salt, and half a lemon, or one full lemon you can squeeze, and then you have to keep sipping it, and you have to complete it in like 30 to 40 minutes. You can complete that 1 liter of water, and then take another liter of warm water with only salt. There's no need for lemon for the second round, with only salt, and keep drinking. And you have to keep moving. You should not be just you should not be sitting. You should keep moving your hands and legs. We'll talk about that also. You should keep moving your hands and legs and just maybe walking around, and then take the second liter of water. By the time you take the second liter of water, you start having the pressure in the stomach and you will feel like using the restroom. And when you use the restroom, you will see that a lot of waste matter is coming in the first few rounds. So you'll have to be near the restroom, because you'll have to use the restroom multiple times. So then you'll keep continuing to drink the third liter of water, right? And then you will be using the restroom multiple times, and you will slowly realize that all the waste has been emptied out, and until the time that you have the clear water coming out with no smell and no color, till the time you have to keep taking water with salt. So once that plain water starts coming down from the anus, then you know that the process is complete. So the first time when you do it is little bit of trial and error to say what is actually working, right? So the first time it might actually take you more time. It may take you like 2 to 3 hours, right? 2 to 3 hours depending, right? It just varies from person to person, right? So you'll have to figure out and adjust it accordingly. And so generally so generally people who are eating sattvic ahar, right? If you're always eating sattvic ahar, so then not a lot of waste matter is there in your gut, right? Because the food gets digested nicely. But then if you're eating like all sorts of food, and if your digestive system is not proper, it's not digesting properly, food is not digesting properly, then you will see that you'll be very surprised to see a lot of waste is coming from your body, right? A lot of waste that has not fully digested is coming out from your body, right? So generally, I think for people it may take like 2 to 3 hours for the first time. But then once you learn the process after the first time, then I think it will be even more quicker, right? So once you learn how to do it, then you will get a sense of how much salt to add. And then so if you think two spoons is too much, too salty, then you can reduce it. It just varies from person to person. So you have to drink like 1 liter of water within 30 minutes or so, and then after you drink that 1 liter, then you have to take the second liter, right? So like this you have to drink 3 or 4 liters, right? So some people 3 liters is sufficient, some people may need 4 liters to empty the complete gut. It all varies from person to person, right? So then you'll have to, after drinking the water, you'll have to go to the bathroom, and then it will just continue, right? And you will see that a lot of brown matter is coming out from your body, right? So I talked about adding the lemon juice for the first liter. After that it is not needed. After that lemon juice is not needed, just salt is required, right? So this is actually the process. So I actually have this link over here. Okay, can you guys open that link? How to break the fast? Can you open the link, and then we'll just quickly read through that. Pushpala Tabagni, do you want to read?
Yes, Bhagini.
You have that link?
1 minute.
I can actually send it to you if you don't have the link. Let me put it in the chat. I put it in the chat. Oh, Sharada Bhagini, link is not working. Wait, I will see if I can put this on. Share the screen. 1 second.
It's working for me, Bhagini.
It's working for you? Okay.
I think it's opening. It opens in the browser, no? Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you
I
can
tried
actually...
it in the beginning. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually... Yeah, I actually also have shared it on my screen. So, Pushpalata Bhagini, do you want to read? We can just go through it quickly. Pushpalata Bhagini, are you there? Hamsini Bhagini, do you want to read? Are you able to hear me? Sharada Bhagini, do you want to?
Bhagini?
Yeah, read.
How to break fast?
Yeah.
The day before you fast. Best is not to not eat meat of any kind the day before fasting. Also, do not overeat the night before. Try and take a comfortable light meal with sufficient carbohydrate. Note, the fasting period is from sunrise to sunrise. Precautions. An important point to be aware of is that by doing a 24 to 36 hour dry fast, that is without water, then by its completion the body becomes somewhat dehydrated and is in a delicate and sensitive state. In that case, if one breaks the fast in an abrasive or hasty manner, then not only will you be unable to derive the many benefits of the fast, but it will create harm to the body. Only persons in very good health and with good energy should fast without water. Sick persons and people in mediocre health should observe fasting, taking plenty of lemon juice and water. The need for water. Another key point is that after a dry fast, upon completing the fast breaking process described below, sufficient water is then needed to properly restore the body and help it reach that pristine state. Water is an indispensable part of the functioning of the body, and since the human body itself is comprised mostly of water, 60% or so, naturally an adequate amount of water must be taken. About cleaning of the digestive tract. Since birth, if you have never done the procedure of described below, then your digestive tract has never been empty and never been cleaned. Everything needs to be cleaned periodically, and the digestive tract is no exception. It goes on accumulating all sorts of residue and toxins and needs to be fully cleaned out regularly. Say one is fasting on a Monday. After having normal shouch, cleaning of the bowels, Monday morning, and not eating anything all the day, one may think by Tuesday morning the digestive tract is empty. However, it will be an eye-opening experience to find out what actually comes out in the process of cleaning the digestive tract the Tuesday morning as per the below guideline. Even after fasting, digested food and waste material remain in the colon, that is the large intestine, and small intestine. Sufficient water is needed in order to deliver a proper and thorough cleaning of the intestine as well as the entire digestive tract. Furthermore, it is well known that water is one of the basic ingredients for the functioning of all the organs. After fasting, a sufficient amount must be taken to compensate for the deficit. And as discussed below, water is needed in order to flush the waste from the body. So on both these accounts and for other reasons as well, the body needs an adequate amount of water on the morning of breaking fast. Point of awareness. Two or even three glasses of water is not clearly enough for the breaking process. On breaking fast morning, the digestive system should be first cleaned thoroughly from top to bottom with water and salt water, bar salt water. Then fresh water should be taken to rehydrate and then solid food can be taken not beforehand. Breaking the fast itself.
Bhagini, one second. So far with regarding to the what we have read so far, I think it's self-explanatory. But any questions? Okay, Bhagini. Now go through the breaking the fast. What is the process?
breaking the fast itself. How to break the fast? Be sure to how to process. Be sure to budget 2 to 3 hours for completing the following process. If it is your first time, give yourself 3 hours. It will take a minimum of 90 minutes. For most people, it can take 2 to 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours. But the first time, best is to give yourself more time so there is no rush and you can take your time. Squeeze 1/4 or half a lemon or lime into a bowl. The size of the bowl should be at least 1 liter. Be sure that the individual cells of the lemon or lime are broken to maximize the juice. You can repeatedly poke a knife into the open face of the lime or lemon or lime before squeezing the lime or lemon into the bowl. This will help bring more juice. The bowl or container or bottle you use should be made of steel or glass or ceramic, not plastic. Add 1.5 to or 2 teaspoons flat, not heaping, of salt to the lemon or lime juice and mix. Note, some people need less salt as explained further down, as any salt will work. Black salt may find it be more pleasant to drink. Add 1 liter of warm water. If you add warm water, then leave room to add cold water from the sink. The lemon salt water mixture should be distinctly salty to taste, but not overly salty. If your mixture is not sufficiently salty, then little by little more can be added. And if really it is already too salty, then simply dilute your mixture by adding more warm water. Please be aware, too much salt will invite nausea and even vomiting, and you will not be able to recognize this immediately by the taste. Too little salt will not allow you to break the fast properly. You will urinate instead of defecate. This salt solution will be eliminated from the body in the next hour or two, so there not be much of a lingering effect of all this sodium. Drink this 1 liter of lemon salt water mixture, not in one gulp per se, but in a series of comfortable sips and swallows over the course of a few minutes or less, without bloating the stomach. Be careful not to take too much time. After finishing this initial round of salty lemon water, walk around for a few minutes, either in the fresh air or indoors. Do not remain in a seated position. At a minimum, stand up. Best is to walk around. You may gently stretch the upper body by raising the arms or the inhale and then exhaling and gently bending to the side, and repeat by bending to the opposite direction. This gently helps to hasten the cleansing process. Do not sit down and remain still, as that will severely hinder the process of digestion and cleaning. As soon as you feel ready, drink the next round of salt water. Prepare it this time without lemon, 1.5 or 2 flat spoons of salt, then add 1 liter of warm water. Note, it is important not to wait too long between rounds. As soon as the stomach feels comfortable, one should again drink. A good guideline is to use the 1 liter every 30 minutes. So in 1 hour, you will have taken 2 liters of this salt water. In 90 minutes, you would have taken 3 liters of it. If you are ready for the second liter before 30 minutes is over, this is fine. But be sure you feel like the stomach has emptied a bit and has room for more water. If that is not the case, walk around for some time and the stomach will clear and you will feel ready to drink more. After the second round, be sure to walk around and bend the torso side to side. Remember, do not sit down or remain still, as this will severely hinder the process of digestion and clearing. If you do not have a strong urge to go to the bathroom yet, continue to walk and drink warm water with salt and added as described above. Lemon is not needed after the first liter. By this process of drinking and walking, a strong urge will come to go to the toilet. You will feel this urge between half an hour to 1 hour after you have begun to drink this lemon salt water. Now, if you urinate first, it means that not a sufficient amount of salt was used. But really, for most people, 2 teaspoons of salt per liter of water for the first rounds should work fine. Initially, a very strong smelling brown waste matter will be released. Thereafter, more and more solids and liquids will be released via the rectum. This will also be known at the beginning. This will also be brown at the beginning, but do not worry that you have stricken with a severe case of diarrhea. This is the initial stage of cleaning out the digestive tract. In this process of cleansing, one might visit the toilet between 3 to 5 times or more, or you may go less frequently but sit for longer periods. Do not suppress the urge. When the impulse comes, go straight to the toilet. Note, for those who use toilet paper, repeated use of the paper during this process may cause irritation. Using water to cleanse is preferred. It is more gentle and far more effective in cleaning the anus and surrounding area. Fill a bucket of water and use a redesignated dip cup to pour water down the backside. The waste material will turn from brown and somewhat solid to yellowish and liquidly until finally being a completely clear liquid, just like plain water, having no smell or color. Once completely clear liquid comes, be assured the entire digestive tract is clean, including the intestines, colon, stomach, etc. Depending on the person, it will take from 2 to 4 liters of salted water to complete this process and defecating and clearing the digestive tract. At that point, switch over from drinking a salted mixture and take 1 liter of pure fresh water without any salt. This fresh water will help hydrate the body and aid in the cleansing process. Drinking 1 or 2 liters is quite helpful, both for clearing and rehydrating. In sum, your cleaning process is complete when what is coming out into the toilet has no color, no odor, and contains no particular matter. When you see it, it should appear as clear water with nothing in it. And having achieved this state of perfect cleansing of the digestive tract, you have taken at least 1 liter of plain water for rehydration. At this point, the entire process is complete. By this thorough process of cleansing, a very light and healthy feeling will consume the body. One will feel very happy, fresh and energetic. Within 10 to 20 minutes, a slight feeling of hunger will come. At that point, you may eat 2 to 3 ripe bananas depending on the size. The banana should be soft and ripe, not green and hard. Be sure to wait until you feel hunger to take the bananas. You feel full from the water and do not have hunger, walk around some and the water will quickly pass through the stomach and hunger will come. After taking a few bananas, be careful not to overeat or fill the stomach completely. Wait approximately 5 to 10 minutes. When strong hunger comes, take some more digestible food, like some sorts of food, and then overly hydrated rice and vegetables. Khichdi or what? Khichdi or
Khichdi.
Whatever is conveniently available. Do not take heavily spiced or oily food, or processed food. Avoid eating too much food like bread or acidic foods like pasta. Aim for more simple food like soup or khichdi. After having taken all that salt in the cleaning process, this is a good time for a new experience. Food without added salt. There is no nutritional need for adding salt to food, and on this day, if you take food without salt, you may find that you like it. This way, you get the true taste of the vegetables and grains themselves. Throughout the day, the care should be taken to continue to drink plenty of fresh water in small amounts, but not at the same time as eating. This will ensure the solid food gets digested properly, and it will also keep the body hydrated. Avoid processed beverages. Taking proper care. One should also keep in mind that breaking fast is a highly individualized process. One should be gentle, have sufficient time, and listen to one's own body. This is very important and a delicate subject. Be sure to take proper care to see what works for you. It gets easier and easier each time you do this. You are always welcome to call or email with questions or send via WA.
WhatsApp.
I mean, what?
Yeah. So this is the process. So this document is there in our website where I have put all the recordings. So I also shared this document with you right now, right? So this is actually a very beautiful process, and it is really very good. It helps you, to be healthy. It gives a complete rest to the digestive process, to be healthy, to clean your gut, right, and to avoid all diseases. That is also one of the main things, right? It helps to keep your body in a healthy state, and also your being closer to Paramapurusha that day, on the day of the Upavasa. So that is this process that we talked about. Any questions that you guys have? I actually just did my Upavasa the day before yesterday, which was the Ekadashi, and I actually broke my fast yesterday. So yesterday was the day I actually broke my fast. Okay. So if you have no questions. Yeah.
How often should we do this? Let's say in a year, once a year, twice a year, something like that?
No, not twice a year. No, we have to do twice a month. Twice a month, not twice a year. You have to do it twice a month. Generally, for beginners, twice a month. For people who want, they can do 4 times a month. I do 4 times a month.
4 times a month? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. Okay.
And any other questions? So for beginners to start with, you can do 2 times a day. On the Ekadashi, you can do. Ekadashi you can do, or you can do on Amavasya and Paurnami also, right? So,
okay.
Yeah. If you have any other questions, you can, Sharada, you can also call me. We can talk about that. So for others, if you have any questions, you can let me, or you can text me. You can message me if you have questions. And also, if you want to talk, we can always talk. Okay, that we'll stop over here and take it forward from. So I wanted to actually tell you, I will be sharing with you the Upavasa dates beforehand. So those who want to try, you can always try. I'll send you the dates before Ekadasi or Amasya or Paurnami. Okay. So we'll end the class. It's slightly over. Sorry for that. Thank you so much. Namaskaraha.
Thank you.
Namaskaraha. Dhanyawadaha.
Namaskaraha. Dhanyawadaha.